Hey fifth graders, it's Mrs. Tremblay. It's time for lesson number 12. So we're in Unit 4, Lesson 12 notes. And today we're going to look at two-digit divisors with the partial quotient method. Remember the divisor is the number I'm dividing into the dividend. So we're going to have two digits today. And the method that we're going to use is the same one that we used before. Okay? It's just a little bit trickier because we're multiplying by two-digit numbers, so you know things get a little more complicated, but we can still use our multiplying by multiples of 10 stuff to help us. Okay? So here's our first one. We have 20 into 740. Okay? So 20. Now 20 is not going to go into 7, right? So I look at 74, and how many 20s could I fit into 74 without going over? Well, if I count by 20s, 20, 40, 60. I can fit 3, right? So 3 20s will go into 74. Do you see how I have another digit after that 74? Yeah. So we're using that multiple of 10. And why are we using a multiple of 10? Because it's a lot easier to multiply by multiples of 10. Wish this would focus what's going on. Okay. So 20 times 30 is what we need to do right now. I know that 2 times 3 is 6, and there are 2 zeros, so I write a 6 with 2 zeros, 600. So all those multiplying by multiples of 10s, all those rules are coming back at us. And now we have to see how much we have left to work with. So 0 minus 0 is 0, 4 minus 0 is 4, 7 minus 6 is 1. So now I'm left with 140. I'm going to do the same things before. 20, I can't divide 20 into 1, right? What about 20 into 14? No. Okay, so now I'm looking at 140. So with this, you could go ahead and count by 20s up to 140. That would be fine. Or you could just kind of look at the 2 and the 14, right? I have a 0 here and a 0 here, so I know those are both multiples of 10, but isn't 2 times 7 14? Yeah. So that means that 20 times 7 would be 140. So the 7 times 2 is the 14, and then I have my 0 right there. We subtract and see there is nothing left here, and I see that I have a 30 and a 7, so my answer, I would just add the two of these together, and we get 37, exactly 37. Now to check to make sure that we're right, I would take 37 times 20, and I should get 740. So 37, I'm going to write my 20 on the bottom. That way I can just say, okay, well 37 times 2 with a 0 in the ones place. 2 times 7 is 14, carry the 1. 2 times 3 is 6 plus 1 is 7. So we get 740, that's what we're dividing into. That means that 37 is correct. Okay, next one, we have 19 into 798. Now this one, it's a little trickier because that's 19. That's not 20, is it? So it's a little more difficult to try to count by 19s, right? Here we counted by 20 to get to 74. The good news is you can just use estimation. If we don't land on the exact number, it's okay. So 19 is super close to 20, so I would just ask myself, well, how many times would 20 go into, not 7, but 79? So 20, 40, 60, 80, 4 times would be 80, right? You might be thinking, well, this is 79, it's not 80, but 19 isn't 20, it's less than 20, right? So my guess is we can probably fit 4 19s into 79, 20, 40, 60, 80, because 19 is 1 less than 20. So I'm going to write a 4 above the 79, right? Because we're saying that that should go in about 4 times. We have an extra digit there, right? So I need to actually do 19 times 40. Okay. Now here is where your multi-digit multiplication is going to help because we have to figure out what to write down here. I know that I estimated and used 20, but I need to actually know what 19 times 40 is to know what to write down here. So off to the side, I'm going to go ahead and do 19 times 40 to see what to write underneath. I know I'm going to have a 0 in the ones place, and 4 times 9 is 36. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 3 is 7. 1 second, guys.
Your stuff.
Oh, I said just don't worry about it. It's okay.
Well, I turned it on so I can change the landing.
Okay, sorry guys, hang on.
Just,
I have it all in Nicole's room too.
oh.
I just set all my things. So in her room, I don't want to stop it and then have to Thank you.
Surely. Sorry.
That's okay. All right, guys, back to it. So I just got 760. That's what 40 times 19 is. So I'm going to write 760 underneath. And now we need to subtract. 8 minus 0 is 8. 9 minus 6 is 3. And 7 minus 7 is 0. I don't need to write anything down, right? Okay, now I need to ask myself, how many times will 19 go into 38? Well, if I look at 19 like it's about 20, right? 20, 40. So 38's pretty close to 40. 19's really close to 20. Do you think we could fit 2 19s into 38? Well, let's try it out, okay? So I'm saying I want this to be 2. I need to now do 19 times 2. 9 times 2 is 18. 2 times 1 is 2 plus 1 is 3. And I did. I got exactly 38. There's none left over. So now my answer, it's 40 plus 2. My answer is 42. So 798 divided by 19 is 42. All right. Next one, I have 31 divided into 589. Okay. So to start off, like I know I can't do 31 times anything to get 5, but 58. Okay, so you might not want to count by 31, but 31's really close to 30, isn't it? And 30, 60. So 2 30s would make 60. You know how 31's a little bit more than 30? I'm not going to get something a little less than 60. Okay, so with this 31 will actually only fit into 58 one time because 2 31s would make 62, which is too much. So 31 will go into 58 one time, but then there's this other digit here, right? So I'm going to use 10. So 31 will go into 589 at least 10 times, and 31 times 10, we don't have to write this one off to the side. I know that 31 times 1 is 31, and then I put my 0. So 310. And now we subtract. 9 minus 0 is 9, 8 minus 1 is 7, and 5 minus 3 is 2. So now we're at 279. Okay, so 31 will not go into 2. 31 will not go into 27. Now I want to know how many times will 31 go into 279. Okay, so this is where I would kind of just use some estimation here. I would treat this like 30. And if you see 3 and 27, isn't 3 times 9 27? So wouldn't 30 times 9 be 270? So one more time. 3 times 9 is 27. So 30 times 9 would be 270. So I'm going to try 9 using estimation. So in order to figure out what to write here, I have to do 31 times 9. So off to the side, I'm going to write 31 times 9. 9 times 1 is 9. 9 times 3 is 27. We got exactly 279. There's none left over. 10 plus 9 is 19. All right, keep it going. All right, the next one, I have 45 into 855. I know that 45 will not go into 8. Could I fit 2 45s into 85? No, 45 plus 45 would be 90, right? So that's not gonna work. So that means I can only fit 1 45 into this 85, and remember above this other digit, I'm gonna write the 0. And again, I'm doing that because it's easy to multiply 45 by 10, right? It's just 45 with a 0 after it. And let's subtract and see how much we have left. 5 minus 0 is 5. 5 minus 5 is 0. 8 minus 4 is 4. Okay, so now I've got 405, right? I have to figure out how many times 45 will go into 405. Well, it won't go into 4, and 40, it won't go into 40 either. Now I have 405. So I want to figure out like 45 times what gets me 405. So here's what I would do. I would make this a little easier to work with and just say, well, 45 is really close to 50. It's easy to count by 50, isn't it? So ask yourself, how many 50s are there in 405? Well, in 100, aren't there 2 50s? So in 200, there would be 4. And in 300, there would be 6. And in 400, there would be 8. So I know that 50, there would be 8 50s in 400. So I'm going to try 8. Now I need to figure out what 45 times 8 actually is. So 45 times 8. 8 times 5 is 40. 8 times 4 is 32. And 32 plus 4 is 36. So we get 360. It's less than 405, so I know we're good. 5 minus 0 is 5. I can't take 6 away from 0, so we borrow. And 10 minus 6 is 4. So we have 45. Oh, how many times does 45 go into 45? 1 time. Yep. And 45 times 1 is 45. And now there's nothing left over. So for our answer, we just have to do 10 plus 8 plus 1, which is 19 again. So we have 19. No remainders yet. Okay, next one. I have 32 divided into 2,048. I can't take 32 into 2. I can't take 32 into 20. I know that I can fit 32 into 204, right? So we just have to ask ourselves, like, I would say, like, counting by 30, how many would it take to get to 204, right? Or if you just look at the 3 at the front and the 20, you might ask yourself, 3 times what gets me closest to the 20? That will be helpful, okay? So 3 times what gets you closest to 20? I would say 6, right? So if 3 times 6 gets me 20, then 30 times 6 will get me the 180, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna use a 6 here, and then that's into 204, right? There's a digit after that. That means I need 1 0. So in order to figure out what to write underneath here, we have to multiply 32 by 60. I'm gonna write down my 0, and 6 times 2 is 12. 6 times 3 is 18, plus 1 is 19. So 1,920, that is close to 2,048. And we didn't go over, so that's good. All right, 8 minus 0 is 8. 4 minus 2 is 2. And then I would just look at this as 20 minus 19 is 1. If you wanted to cross off the 2 and make it a 1 and make that a 10, you can. Now I want to know, how many 32s do you think there are in 128? Okay, well again, if you just treat this as a 30, like look at the 3 and look at the 12. You can just look right at the beginning. 3 times what is 12? 4, right? So that would mean 30 times 4 would be 120. So let's try 4. 32 times 4. 4 times 2 is 8, and 4 times 3 is 12. It's exactly 128. Now that there's none left there, I just need to add these two together to get my answer. And 60 plus 4 is 64. Voila. Sorry, I keep hitting the camera. I'm not used to recording at school. I usually record at home. All right, just so you're aware, we still have a few more examples on the back. Okay, I don't want you to freak out after this example when I turn the page, but we are going to turn the page because this isn't easy stuff. We need some examples, and I especially, like, there aren't remainders here, but I need you to see what happens when there are. So here we go. 52 doesn't go into 7, but it will go into 76. How many times? Just one time, right? So I'm going to write this 1 above the 6 and the 76, and now I have 2 more digits, so I'm going to fill those spaces with zeros. Why? Because it's easy to multiply by 100. 52 times 100 is 5,200. And we subtract to see what's left. 6 minus 0 is 6, 9 minus 0 is 9, 6 minus 2 is 4, and 7 minus 5 is 2. So I have 2,496. Now I have to ask myself, okay, 52 into 2,496. Well, won't go into 2, won't go into 4, but what about 249? How many 52s do you think would fit into 249? Well, if I count by 50s, so I'm going to use an estimate, I'd have 50, 100, right? And then 150, 200. And then 5 50s would be 250, but you know how this is a little bit more than 50? 5 of them is going to end up giving me 250, and that's less. So we're not going to be able to fit 5. I would say to try 4, but we can't just do a regular 4 because there is another digit after that. So I'm going to use 40. So at this point, I need to take 52 times 40. I wrote the 40 in the bottom so that I can just drop my 0. 4 times 2 is 8. 5 times 4 is 20. So I get 2,080. It's less than this number here, so I know we're good. 6 minus 0 is 6. 9 minus 8 is 1. 4 minus 0 is 4. So now I have 416, right? So how many 50s do you think would fit into about 400? We're just estimating. So 50, 100, 150, 200, 250, 300, 350, 400. So 8 50s would fit into 400, and this is a little more than 400, right? So let's try 8. I don't need an extra 0 after that because we were trying to get it into this whole amount. So 52 times 8, 8 times 2 is 16, 8 times 5 is 40, plus 1 is 41. I get exactly 416. There's nothing left. So for my answer, it's 100 plus 40 plus 8. Final answer, 148. And if I want to know if that's right, I would multiply 148 by 52 and make sure I get 7,696. All right, turn your page. Maybe press pause and take a breather. Splash some cold water on your face. We have 4 left. We can do it. All right. 79 into 4,032. 79 won't go into 4. It won't go into 40. But what about 403? It will go into that, right? So I'm going to look at this like 80. 79 is really close to 80, right? And if this was 80, I might ask myself, 8 times what would give 40? So I'm ignoring the ones place in both of these. 8 times what is 40? Well, I know 8 times 5 is 40. So that would mean 80 times 5 would be 400, right? Which is really close to that, and this is just under. So I know I want to try 5, but there's a digit after that 3. So I'm going to use 50. So 79 times 50, because I have to know what to write underneath. I'm going to put my 0. 9 times 5 is 45. 7 times 5 is 35, plus 4 is 39. So we'll write this underneath, 39, 50, and we just need to subtract to see how much is left. 2 minus 0 is 2. We're going to need to borrow now. So 4, 3, and this was a 10, now it's a 9. And 13 minus 5 is 8. And 9 minus 9 is 0, and 3 minus 3 is 0. We have 82 left. How many times will 79 go into 82? Just 1 time. And 79 away from 82, it's 3 away from 82. Yes, you could borrow, or you could just say 79, 80, 81, 82. It's 3. 3 is less than 79, right? That means this is going to be a remainder. So our final answer would be 50 plus 1, which is 51. Remainder 3, because that's what's left over. Okay, next one. And maybe you want to pause. If you feel like you want to pause and solve all 3, go for it. Just make sure you press play to make sure that you're right. 18 won't go into 1. It won't go into 10. It will go into 106, right? So guess what number I'm going to use instead of 18? 20. How many 20s would fit into about 100? 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. 5, right? So I'm going to try 5. And remember, I was only using the 106. There's another digit here, so I need to put a 0. Now to figure out what to write underneath, I have to do 18 times 50. I put my 0 in the ones place. And 5 times 8 is 40. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 4 is 9. So we get 900. Now we just need to subtract. 1 minus 0 is 1. 6 minus 0 is 6. And I see this as 10 minus 9 is 1. If you wanted to borrow and all that, you're more than welcome to. So I have 161 left. All right, we're not done yet. I want to know how many 18s would go into 161. Well, we could count by 20s and see how many it takes to get up to 16. 20, 40, 60, 80, 1, 120, 140, 160. 8. So let's try 8. We're going to do 18 times 8. 8 times 8 is 64. And 8 times 1 is 8, plus 6 is 14. So we get 144, which is still less than 161, so I know we're good. If we got something greater than that 161, then we'd know we picked a number too big. I'm going to borrow from this 6. And 11 minus 4, that's 7. 5 minus 4 is 1. Now, do you see how 17 is less than 18? That means we're done. So for our final answer, 50 plus 8 is 58, and our remainder, it's 17. It's okay to have a remainder of 17. It's just not okay to have a remainder of 18 or more, because that means we could fit another group of 18. All right, we're down to the last bit here. 62 doesn't go into 8, but it does go into 83. I can't fit 2 of them, right? Because that would be at least 120. I can fit 1. And do you see how that's going into 83? And there are 2 digits after that. I'm going to use 100. So 62 times 100 is 6200. And we subtract. 0 minus 0 is 0. 7 minus 0 is 7. 3 minus 2 is 1. And 8 minus 6 is 2. So now we are at 2,170. 6 will not go into 2. 60 will not go into 21. 60 will go into 217. I have to ask yourselves, about how many times? So again, I would just look at our first digits here, okay? The 6 and the 21. So I'm going to kind of ignore the ones place and ask myself, 6 times what would get me closest to 21? 6, 12, 18. 6 times 3. That means that 60 times 3 would be about 180. So we're going to try 3. But there's another digit after that, so we need 30. So let's do 62 times 30. Put my 0 in the ones place. 3 times 2 is 6. 6 times 3 is 18. 1,860, and we subtract. 0 minus 0, 7 minus 6, and 21 minus 18 is 3. You could borrow, that's fine, but it's 3. So 310. So now I have to ask myself, 62 times what gets me closest to 310? Well, I know 6 times 5 is 30. So I can do 62 times 5, because that should give me about 300. 62 times 5. 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 6 is 30, plus 1 is 31. Oh, I love when that happens. Got exactly 310. That means we're done. Add those 3 together. 100 plus 30 plus 5 is 135. All right, last one. If you haven't paused me yet, try it now. Pause it. See if you can get it. All right, 23 will not go into 1. It will not go into 18. It will go into 189. And you have to ask yourself, about how many times do you think? So I would just ask myself, like, 2 times what would get me closest to 18? Because then 20 times that would do the same thing. So I know that 2 times 9 is 18. But do you see how this is more than 20? So 9 is going to end up being too big. So if I know that I rounded down, then I want to use 1 less. So I know that 2 times 9 would give me 18, but this is more than that. So we're going to use 8, but then there's another digit, right? So I need 80. So let's do 23 times 80. Bring down my 0. 8 times 3 is 24. 8 times 2 is 16, plus 2 is 18. So I have 1,840, and we subtract. 2 minus 0 is 2. 9 minus 4 is 5, and then we have 0, 0. So I have 52 left. How many times will 23 go into 52? Well, I know that 23 and another 23 would make 46, and I definitely can't fit another one in there. So I would say 2. And I just said 23 times 2 is 46. And if you don't believe me, then do 23 times 2. 3 times 2 is 6, and 2 times... Oh, yeah, it is. Should have listened to you, Mrs. Trombley. All right, 52 minus 46. You can just count up from 46 to 52. 46 plus 4 is 50, plus 2 more. That's 6. Or you can borrow and say 12 minus 6 is 6. Now see how this 6 is less than 23? That means we're done. 80 plus 2 is 82, and we do have a remainder of 6. All right, I know that wasn't easy. Thank you so much for watching.